This is an example of how you can use rack and pinion gears in a more creative way than just one rack and one pinion. So in this setup, I've got a claw bot that's supposed to grab a block, and then it's going to travel this way, left to right, and it can also travel up and down. So this up and down lift is actually attached to this left and right lift. So its end function is something like this. So I press a button, it reaches forward and grabs the block, and then lifts up, drops the block up on a shelf or something, and then goes back. So notice it's able to go up and down and left and right. So by combining two rack and pinion systems, we've got, this is one system, our X. I've got two rails that help stabilize it. And then here's my Y system. Got a rack and pinion that goes up and down. I'm able to get movement in two different directions at once. Now what's cool is I could actually mount this entire thing to a third rack and pinion system, and we would have travel in the X, Y, and Z directions, sort of like a 3D printer would, where it can go up and down, and then the printing head can go in the X and Y direction as well. So it's a 3-axis printer. This is a 2-axis claw bot. So I'm gonna just zoom in really close and you guys can see sort of how I set this up. So this one, I've got my rack and pinion gears elevated with standoffs here. And then I've got my gearboxes and gears set up, and I've actually connected those together with a standoff as well. Having two of these together helps stabilize the build so that it doesn't tip that way with all the weight from this claw over here. So having that second one is going to help keep this thing level as it moves. So that's why I did two of them. In certain situations you might not need two. And then on this Y one example of how I stabilize this a little bit better. I've only got one rack and pinion system, but on the same gearbox that's attached to this rack and pinion, I've got a slider attached to this rail. There's no rack gears in here, but just having this slider attached here adds a lot of stability. If I only had this rack and pinion system and I didn't use this rail, then this claw motor would wobble a lot. So I'll get in kind of close so you guys can see that. And last of all, I've just thrown limit switches on the top and bottom. Those limit switches help tell the motors when they need to turn off so that they don't end up pushing past the top and bottom limits of the build.